So, Sam, what are you hearing so far from the members of Smith's UCP about that deal she's made with the Prime Minister?
Yeah, well, we definitely spoke with several people before things got going here earlier today. And look, the Premier yesterday, when she signed that MOU with the Prime Minister, said that this is a new starting point for the relationship between Ottawa and Alberta. She said that this is a break in the hard times that people, the hundreds of thousands of Albertans who work in the oil and energy industry, this is a break from the hard times that they've experienced under past governments. And finally, she said that some Albertans actually questioned the long-term viability of Canada as a country because of some of former Prime Minister Trudeau's environmental policies. And this MOU, she said, is a significant change and shift away from that. Now, what I heard from some people here today is that, yes, absolutely, they support Danielle Smith as a leader. However, they are skeptical of this MOU, whether a pipeline will be built, and the skepticism around Ottawa continues.
I'd say the last 10 years, it's been clear that Alberta is never going to be valued by the rest of, by the major decision makers within the Ottawa power structure.
And BC should step aside and be a Canadian, or else I don't want to be a Canadian. Because why?
I'm not holding my breath that we're actually going to see a pipeline.
How come?
Because it's just not going to happen. BC will not let us put a pipeline through the province.
It's too much political uncertainty, too many rules, all sorts of things that don't work, and so investors are scared to come here. And I'm a separatist because Carney is, and his predecessors, they're interfering.
Now, these concerns are not one size fits all. While some people say that they just have this skepticism around Ottawa because of what they've experienced, other people straight up want Alberta to separate and become its own country because they say then they wouldn't have to work with Ottawa at all, and they say they would only have to look to their own leadership. However, as a landlocked province, that would still be pretty difficult to get things like a pipeline through.
Sam, some of those clips are so telling and so revealing of the mood, and that language also mimics some of the concerns presented by the federal Conservative leader just yesterday in Ottawa. So there's clearly skepticism. Is that going to hold the Premier back from pushing forward with support not only for this deal, but for herself as the party meets this weekend?
It's doubtful that that will have much of an effect on her support from the membership. I mean, I'll tell you, when she walked on stage, she's speaking right now behind me. When she walked on stage, she still received quite the applause. And you're right, Pierre Poilievre yesterday in question period in Ottawa stepped up and said that this deal essentially is just Ottawa stringing Alberta along, and he's very skeptical that there will be a pipeline built at all. And I heard that today, but I don't think that necessarily translates into a lack of support for Smith. I heard that people think she's a great leader. She handled this very diplomatically. And remember, at this same AGM last year in 2024, during a leadership review, Danielle Smith received 91.5% approval rating from this leadership in her abilities as a leader. So I don't think that support is going anywhere. And I will tell you, even though we heard from a lot of people who are skeptical of this MOU, there are some people who are very happy with it.
Western alienation will possibly always be a thing. However, if we feel respected, we are saying what we want and we're actually getting it. I think it's symbolic through a pipeline that we are a seat at the table, that even though ideologically we've had our differences or we have different values as Ottawa or the federal government, that we're actually being respected. And that is, I think, one of the biggest underlying challenges that I believe the separatist movement was pushing for. And I think this is not the last checkbox on what the province would like to see in their relationship, but this is a 180 from the last 10 years. And so I think it kind of takes maybe some oxygen out of that argument.
And while it might take some of the wind out of those sails, there are still things that many of the membership here hope to see as a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. So things like equalization payments, getting rid of those. The Alberta pension plan is still up for debate tomorrow when the membership discuss mandates and policies. And we will get a better support, or rather a better idea of support for that MOU tomorrow when the membership votes on a policy that specifically discusses investment investment in new oil and natural gas pipelines. Perhaps they will bring up the MOU to the Premier herself and other concerns.
CBC Sam Sampson in Edmonton. Thank you, Sam.